Hey everyone, RemanX here, and we're going to go through, and I'm with the help of chat, try to understand really what's going on with this Summer of Blunder event that's happening, Summer of Thunder. Dang it, guys, you guys got me to say that too. But realistically, it feels a little bit like a blunder on behalf of the community because there's some concerns that we have. And let's start with the very base. There was a lot of different things going on during the July 1st evening when all these offers and etc. were coming in. So let's start with the basic one. The basic one was the Dazzler milestone was able to be completed with a $5 offer. Basically, you got in the millions of points and were able to get a completion. Again, not sure how many people were affected by it, but I want to say one thing that was important from that. They divided the leaderboards to make sure that people weren't getting extra leaderboard points for it, so the people that had paid the money got their due. But the other piece of the puzzle was they actually were able to address some of the specifics about it relatively quickly so that people got payouts. However, there was a mail that went out that said to players that were removed from that leaderboard that they were essentially being accused of cheating and they were going to be watched, right? So let's talk about both sides of that issue because we're going to get to the other major issues in a few moments. We're going to talk a lot about it. I think it's important to take a look at how the community feels and then decide how you feel on your own. And by the way, however you feel is right. Period. End of story. But we have to get some facts in the place first. So first things first, the most important thing I want to talk about is at the end of the day, that mail that went out was good and bad. And we're going to explain why. It was good because there was no Agatha event, which means they canceled an Agatha event because of the cheater board scandal. That was good. It was good because they have an automated response to basically tell people that they're being removed from leaderboards for suspicious activity. That's good. Here's the bad. It targeted some of the highest spenders in the game. It went out in a generic mail form, and the apology and explanation came out in a completely different format on socials that may not have reached this audience. It should have been something that was generated in an in-game mail that went out and said, hey, sorry, you were incorrectly identified as a player who was exploiting because of our correction to the leaderboards. Please accept our sincere apologies. This will not happen again. Your account is not being watched. Thank you for your support of Marvel Strike Force. Period. End of story. Problem solved, right? Well, not so simple. That's a big deal that started phase one. So let's talk about the bad thing here. Marvel Strike Force has a history of banning thousands of players erroneously. Now, were thousands of players caught in this dragnet of players? Were some of them legitimate cheaters the last time we had that? Well, had that never happened, people would not have panic. So let's get that out of the way. Honestly, a $5 offer to allow people to go back and complete that Dazzler milestone would have been the right course of action. It would have allowed people that wanted to spend to be able to do it. Again, free to play should have had the option to spend some cores on it as well. And just celebrate the fact that they had people that wanted to engage with this, and so that people weren't skewed one way or the other. That power advantage with their, while potentially minuscule, it's just one of those things when you don't give the opportunity to everybody, the people that feel miss out, which is the majority of people, if only a small people were affected, feel bad. And at the end of the day, you could have made $5 on something and benefited the community. Moving on. Let's talk about the Summer of Thunder. Now, the Summer of Thunder was a different story. And the problem with this is nobody can give me an exactly accurate way that this happened. So what happened was Marvel Strike Force, at the behest of Archangel and the community and the envoys and etc., quite a few people were asking that the raid for Gambit got extended. It allowed more people to get completion and allowed people to have access to the raid. And so what happened was the energy, it looks like, whether it was from the web milestones or from your in-game mail, generated additional points towards the Summer of Thunder milestone, resulting in a portion of the population to get the rewards. Now, that is in of itself troubling, right? They got the entire calendar done, a month's worth of logging in, of setting your Crucible teams, of pulling your Crucible offense, of having these gear available to you. So the baseline comes down to this, and we're going to go through this because this is a very well worded post here. Okay. Basically, the idea is some of the mid-game players are now required teams to be able to complete all the events. We're able to complete it because of just the in-game mail. That's a big deal. Again, the counter argument, players didn't automatically get the completion event, will now have a significant amount of time this month to get rewards. Some got here in mere minutes. All players that got all the rewards up front have a major advantage over, because again, Crucible, War, all these teams are being utilized to get points throughout the system here to make sure that you can, change the outcome. So for instance, if you have to use your Darkhold team on offense to get points in Crucible or War, well, guess what? The people that got this and were able to leave it on defense have a significant advantage over the people that have to use them as offense to get points for the attack. And that is, in of itself, identifying part of the problem. Again, you could feel how you want to feel about this, but there's definitely a real world scenario that puts these people in an advantage ahead of others. You cannot dispute that. You can't. So it wasn't something they paid for, was done accidentally, and because this is a paid for calendar, this generates, my guess is, millions of dollars a month for the course of, in their analytics minds. Okay, this probably generates millions of dollars in the course of a month because of the FOMO factor and the number of offers that are included in these. They're probably just looking at that and saying, we can't replicate that. Okay, so very realistically, the fact that this can be used in Crucible, that you don't have to use these teams throughout this, you don't have to wait a whole month for the rewards, that your bio teams for the A-Force, you can build them up for the Scourge event. You have some additional Mystic gear to put on additional characters that are Mystic that are going to be utilized from Young Avengers, etc., etc., etc. There is a real world impact. So here's the thing. There is some discrepancy on how many players were affected by this. So just from talking to people, the people that I've come in contact, there's about 25 to 45 people just confirmed by me that have had this happen, that they have a complete Summer of Thunder. Now, as a portion of the population, if that 25 people are among the people that I talk to, which are among the biggest tryhards in the game, they're definitely gaining a competitive advantage in all the game modes that they have, from War, Crucible, etc. The question is, when Scopely says few people were given this advantage, is few 50, or is few 3,000, or is few 50,000? We don't know. They could offer some transparency and say less than 120 people were given this advantage. You probably will not see them and have an impact on them on a daily basis. But again, when we think about the last time they had an issue of this potential scale was the 3,000 orbs debacle, because it gave people a massive competitive advantage. But that was 3,000 times what this was at the end of the day. Now, what this should highlight for Scopely is three things. Teal gear is still obscure. Completed pieces that we were getting from Pocket Dimension were a much better way to get the hands into gear for the players. Finally, the fact that we didn't have a tower mode has made Teal gear even feel more obscure over this time period. And again, with the Scourge event coming on Wednesday, people are up in arms and whether or not I'll have an advantage over that leaderboard as well. So several leaderboards, because this is what the game has become, are being attributed to why people are frustrated with this. And again, if you don't care, you're right. If you care, you're right. But the facts are, we don't know all of the facts. They're being obscured. Okay? And so if we actually knew what percentage of the population was affected by this, I think we'd have a much better way to justify how we feel about this. Personally, I am so used to mistakes. I don't interact with these that often because I do buy offers. So on a personal level, it doesn't affect me as much until I start seeing, I don't know, decked out Asgardians, or until I lose a Crucible fight because people are able to put that in offense and I want to get the points on, or put it on defense and I want to get the points on offense. And again, that's when it'll have that impact. And I don't think Scopely's looked that deep into the future, because even the people there that play the game sometimes don't play the game that we all do. Anyway, love you guys much. That's my 2 cents. Feel the way you want to feel. Don't get heated arguments and blame the community. Come together, guys. I'm going to say this. I'm not defending Archangel in any way, shape, or form. I think some of the tone that he had in the past days was questionable, but I do think that he wants to do right by the community, and he wants to understand how he feels. And as a player, he's stating how it thought he affected him, and that's going to have an impact on what he recommends. And that's just the way that things go. And remember, one thing that he said was the giving everybody the milestone was never on the table. And that's the biggest thing that I took from this, was they were never going to take their hands off of that. Anyway, guys, love you much. Check you soon.